Did you find Howl's Moving Castle confusing after watching it? I did. For me, the first time I watched this movie, it wasn't a very impressive experience, and I even felt the film had too few highlights. Most of what attracted me on the first viewing was the overwhelming visuals and the excellent soundtrack. However, I immediately began to doubt myself, wondering if I was missing something in this film, because Howl's Moving Castle is one of Ghibli's best works. And after many years, I decided to rewatch the movie and realized that I was wrong. Before we begin, in this video, I have a word of advice. I will be mentioning most of the details in the film, so if you haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle yet, please experience the movie at least once before coming back here. And if you've already seen it, then watch this video as a new experience. And the theories I present in this video are entirely my personal understanding and are not mandatory or imposing. Alright, let's get started with today's video. The story begins when Sophie, a young girl, is trying to maintain her father's hat shop. One day, while going to see her younger sister, Sophie encounters the wizard Howl and falls in love with him. After returning home, Sophie is followed by the Witch of the Waste. She is a witch who is always searching for the hearts of young men, and her target this time is the wizard Howl. Sophie was angry when questioned and tried to drive her out of the house. However, this witch placed a terrifying curse on her, causing her to turn into a frail old woman. That is the event that started Sophie's entire journey in the later part of the film. But the question here is whether the curse truly only made Sophie's body age, or if there is something else mysterious behind it. The dialogue in the film doesn't explain the details of the curse. Howl says it's an ancient and very powerful curse. The Witch of the Waste only knows how to cast the curse, but she doesn't know how to break it. The difficult thing here is that Sophie can't say how she was cursed. Fortunately, director Hayao Miyazaki has subtly planted very delicate details so that we can deduce very meaningful messages from that curse. Firstly, it can be confirmed that it is not a curse that makes Sophie old forever. The proof is that there are many scenes in the film where Sophie briefly becomes young again, and then immediately turns back into an old woman. Why is that? To explain this phenomenon, we need to look back at the development of this character. In the early scenes of the film, Sophie appears as a self-conscious, shy girl who always lives within her own shell. While all the girls around Sophie, including her younger sister, wear very colorful makeup, they put on stylish outfits and excitedly go out to have fun. In contrast, Sophie is simple and reserved, and sometimes she glances at herself in the mirror and smiles briefly, but immediately pulls her hat down to cover her face. She can't answer her younger sister's question about how long she will continue her father's hat-making business. She also doesn't know what she wants to do. We only need to pay a little attention to realize that Sophie rarely smiles, and although she is very young, her lifestyle is not young at all. Even when she is turned into an old woman, we see that Sophie's reaction is not at all surprising. Sophie was able to immediately get used to it, but the appearance of Howl and the journey on the moving castle changed everything. The few times she turns back into the form of a young girl are when she is truly living as herself, with a youthful spirit full of energy. Sophie becomes young again when she says good things about the person she loves, when she strolls with Howl in the flower field. Sophie becomes young again when she is a brave person trying to rescue everyone from the fire. But just a little bit of self-doubt, and Sophie will immediately revert to her old way of life and turn back into an old woman. From these details, we can understand that the curse the Witch of the Waste placed on Sophie is a magic that transforms the appearance of the cursed person according to their state of mind. That is, if Sophie continues to live her old way of life, she will forever be an old woman. But if she breaks out of her shell, she will return to being a beautiful young girl. Simply put, this curse is like a mirror reflecting her own soul. And no magic can undo this curse except for Sophie herself. Like at the end of the movie, Sophie is immersed in love, filled with happiness, and we see her become young again. Sophie's journey to regain her youth is also like a journey to find herself. A not at all easy adventure, and she has to go through many lessons and challenges, learning a lot to realize her true worth. Howl's Moving Castle, like other works by Hayao Miyazaki, subtly elevates women without confining or forcing them into any mold. He allows women to decide their own happiness, to learn how to live a meaningful life, and to always strive for the true values of themselves. The wizard Howl is a peace-loving person. Howl says, "Whatever it is, it's all the same. They're all murderers." A small line along with his serious gaze in this scene is enough to let us know that Howl hates war. Going back to the beginning of the movie a bit, Howl once said that he is a coward and spends his whole life running away from the pursuit of the royal sorceress Suleiman. But with what we see of him, it would be more accurate to say that he is actually running away from war. Below, I will try to put forward some hypotheses to explain the questions. Why Howl is being pursued by Suleiman's army, the true meaning of the castle, and the origin of Calcifer. First, we need to go back to the conversation between Howl and Sophie, when Howl tries to convince Sophie to pretend to be the mother of the wizard Pendragon, the fake name Howl uses to disguise himself whenever he is summoned. Howl asks Sophie to go see Suleiman and say that he is useless and that he will not be able to join the army to fight. At this point, the viewer learns that in the past, before enrolling in magic school, Howl had to sign an agreement that he would always serve his king. This immediately makes me think that the royal sorceress Suleiman must also abide by a similar commitment. The evidence is that she holds a very high position in the royal army. Then, after Sophie arrives at the palace, Suleiman says that Howl is a powerful wizard who made a pact with a demon. According to her, Howl is using that power selfishly and only for himself. If he does not surrender to serve the army, then magic will gradually take over him, and the consequence will be turning into this old woman. At first, I believed Suleiman. It's clear that Howl made a pact with Calcifer and received magical power from this creature. But the more I watched until the end of the movie, the more I thought Suleiman was lying, and there is a reason why she always tries to hunt down Howl. The movie starts to get complicated from here. The first hypothesis, and also the biggest leap in this video, is that Calcifer's fire itself is the source of Suleiman's magic. Why is that? And to explain this assertion, let's look at Suleiman's most common form of magic: blue shooting stars and dancing figures. The first time viewers see Suleiman use these shooting stars is to attack Howl, and the figures also appear here. At the same time, they are also used to take away the Witch of the Wast's power. Coincidentally, in Howl's past, when he is making a contract with Calcifer and giving his heart to this flame, it is also a coincidence that he also receives Calcifer from a shooting star, and the figures also appear at this place. From this, I understand that Suleiman is the one who gave Howl the power of Calcifer, and Calcifer is the one who helps him operate the castle. That's why this castle is used as Howl's hiding place, and it also helps him escape Suleiman's pursuit. But the question here is, why would Suleiman give Howl the power to run away from herself? The second hypothesis is that Suleiman is not someone who likes to fight and also doesn't want Howl to join the army. The evidence, as I said earlier, is that, like Howl, she is also bound by an agreement to absolutely obey the royal family, and all she can do is give Howl the power and tools to escape the war as far as possible. So, the words she said to Sophie earlier are completely lies, and the truth is that she is only serving a war-loving king, while she herself does not want to participate in the war. Now we will talk about the relationship between Howl and Calcifer. The two are bound by their lives. Howl gave Calcifer his heart, and Calcifer created the moving castle and operates it. As mentioned, Howl is a very peace-loving person, so Howl uses the castle as a way to escape. However, both still want to break the life binding to gain freedom, and to do that, Howl must take back his heart. But taking his heart out along with the castle means that it will collapse. In other words, to gain freedom, Howl must stop running away and accept losing the castle. For Howl to be able to accept that, Sophie and her love are the perfect catalyst. First is the fact that Howl no longer has to face war. The battle broke out due to the disappearance of the neighboring country's prince, Justin. I don't know if you remember Turnip Head. At the end of the movie, viewers learn that he is Prince Justin. He was cursed, turning him into a scarecrow, and Sophie helped him break the curse with a kiss. The problem is solved, and the war has ended. The second, more important thing is that Howl had to truly accept that he would never run away from war again. The proof is that he stood up to fight planes and bombs to protect the one he loves. Sophie also bravely took Howl's heart out of the castle, so that Howl no longer had to protect it. Although the castle collapsed, Sophie brought Howl's heart back to its rightful place. Thus, the pact between Howl and Calcifer was broken, returning freedom to both of them. The war ends. Howl is free. Sophie lives true to herself, and both of them live a happy life. A fulfilling ending for all the characters in the movie. One thing that made me think a lot about the love between Howl and Sophie when I first watched the movie was that it was an unconvincing relationship. But when I watched it again, I really loved this timeless love story. Why timeless? because the meeting between Howl and Sophie is not a chance encounter, but moments linked from the present to the future. First is the moment when Sophie is taken back to the past to see a young Howl. Before disappearing, she said to the young Howl, "Go find me in the future, because I will know how to give Howl back his freedom." When he grew up, at the moment he found Sophie, Howl said,
"探したよ."
We also see his ring light up in this scene, signaling that Howl has found the right person, the one he has been searching for all this time. After that, he also gives Sophie a ring to summon Calcifer, showing the guiding light for Sophie to return Howl's heart. This is to complete a perfect time travel loop. So, this is not a simple love story, but they truly loved each other at first sight in the past, and they are always searching for the missing perfect half of their hearts.